hopefully this time. All righty, it's time for Jason's thoughts. And for today's vlog, I'm happy to have a be back, Hassan, despite trying to avoid me all over the place. It's totally a lie. But I asked Hassan after our last meetup if he would be interested in joining again. And so glad that you said yes. So Hassan, welcome back to Jason Thoughts.
Thank you very much. And it was such a pleasure the first time around, and it's a privilege to be invited back. Even when I shared this topic, I was like, Jason, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And for you to be as gracious enough to invite me to be on this, it really means a lot, man. So thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, pleasure's all mine, to be honest. From the last one, if anybody hasn't seen the video from our conversation around jobs versus careers, it was a lot of fun. I definitely knew my face was sore by the end of it from smiling and laughing so much. But really, really good content and good conversation. And that was our first time. And this is unscripted. So for anybody
100%.
that has seen any of these videos, we just go with the flow and one take wins it, and that's all you get. And it was a lot of fun. So I really appreciate you coming back and making the time tonight with me. So with today's conversation, you have some quotes and that you kind of want to unpack, and I'm really excited to, you know, go take this journey with you. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic to you, and you can share the quotes, and we'll take it from there.
Awesome. So I dedicate today's piece. I mean, the first one was dedicated to Chris Rock for Jobs and Careers. This one's dedicated to a bit more of a older figure, as you will, William
Yeah.
Shakespeare himself. So there's two quotes that I both heard from my English teacher back in high school, and they both have resonated with me to some effect, even as the years have progressed thereafter. So the first quote is from Shakespeare. I believe it's from the Twelfth Night. For those of you who've seen the Amanda Bynes movie, She's the Man, I believe Channing Tatum uses this quote as well. um, so the first quote is, some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. Another quote that was shared with me, and it was shared in a grade 9 orientation, was, some people make things happen, others watch things happen, and then there are some who wonder what happened. And I find a lot of correlation between these two quotes. And I'd love to sort of get your first crack at it. Like immediately when you hear one of these, or if not both of these, what are Jason's thoughts? What goes through your mind hearing this?
Well, I may have to tread cautiously around messing with Shakespeare, of course. But yeah, I think there, the first, I'll unpack the first part, which is born great. Um, I've had great debates with one of my best friends about this, where uh, some he feels like some have a disposition, or to a certain degree are born great, right? Like there's great artists, there's great singers, there's great talented people. But I'm I'm of the opposite mind. I guess I would say I would disagree with him. um I think if you want to be a singer and you are born with a Kermit the Frog voice, um, chances are your desire to be a great singer may be hindered, right, to a certain degree. And so, but I do feel like um, it is about learning, it's about practicing, it's about uh, getting yourself to greatness, right? I think anybody in every area, with a few exceptions like singing, um, probably can, even if they're not born great at something, they can become great. Like, you talk about, like in sports analogies, you always talk about the great ones, like the Wayne Gretzky's, the Michael Jordans, the Tiger Woods, all the best in the Tom Brady's, all the best in their field of sport. Well, none of them were born throwing a football or hitting a golf club to the maximum, right? And so I think that's the first thing where William Shakespeare and I may have some disagreements. But I think anybody can become great. Um, some achieve greatness. I think is just about what does greatness look like to a person, and for themselves, I think we can all achieve greatness depending on what our goals are. It could be to be a great father, a great mother. It could be to be the best teacher, the best nurse, or the best doctor, or whatever it may be. We all have our own certain goals, but then I also think there is this outside world that puts you up in achieving greatness. Again, sports is very, very easy because, here's the title, here's the championship, here's the gold medal. And so we can easily define those people's greatness because they stand out above everyone else within that sport, what have you. And so achieving greatness, I think, for self wealth and goodness and soul, is really about defining what your greatness looks like. And, like I said, being a great parent, like, what does great parent mean to you? And then marking that down. And then, so when you are reflecting on how you are as a parent, you can check off those boxes and, give yourself love and, yourself that gratitude, because you've made it. And then I guess the last one before I kind of pass it back to you is greatness thrusted upon them. I think given the circumstance, sometimes uh, people may be thrown into scenarios where they aren't ready or they don't feel ready. And maybe they're scared, maybe they're nervous, whatever the case may be, they get dropped into something and may uncover their greatness through whatever it is, right? Because, going back to Shakespeare, maybe this is in regards to war or, um, I don't know, maybe it's like the main actor or actress breaks the leg and they aren't able to perform, and the back end has to be thrown in there. And in that moment, they rise to the occasion, right? They are put into a scenario they did not foresee coming, but in that spotlight, they come out and shine, and they discover that they are great at it. Maybe that they just didn't have the chance yet. So that's my dissection of kind of the whole point to William Shakespeare. Again, hopefully he's not mad at me in his grave, but.
I really love the way you broke it down, and especially sort of your analysis on it, even on the achieving greatness portion of it, right? Like whether you're born with it or not, hard work is something that's universal, regardless of
100%.
your metrics. And one of the things I really liked was, what is your metric of greatness in order for this quote to apply to you? And there is something I'll definitely kind of share on that, and it really is very
Yes.
thought provoking. And even the greatness thrusted upon them, where like, do they rise up to the occasion when the opportunity came your way? How did you respond? And that will kind of determine the status of it. Before I move forward, sorry about that. Do you feel like you belong in one of the three categories? Like, if you had to put yourself in which category, which do you feel like is the most Jason out of the three?
Mm. Well, I first,
No rehearsing, folks.
yeah. Well, I to me, I think I'm always like I never rest, right? And I also try to remain really, really humble. So even in what I would define as some pinnacle moments for me, probably more so around achieving greatness, the moment of celebration was so short before I was like, okay, next level, right? Okay, Now I've gotten here. It's time to get to the next big thing, right? Like, so I guess an example was, I've been in sales for many many years, so there was always that goal, winner. And I guess I would say I won kind of one of the upper echelon, uh, uh, you know, uh, uh, prizes and contests, which was an annual. It took an entire year to see who would win, and was lucky enough to win it. And in that moment, like celebrating and standing up and getting whatever accolades, within fractions of coming off the stage, I was like, got to do it again. I gotta be better. I gotta beat my numbers again. And so I think it's really, really important to define your greatness, but also give yourself some time to actually appreciate what you've achieved in
Yes.
your greatness before you move to the next one. Because I'm certainly not great at it. I always think I can do better, and I'm always looking to do it again, or up my own game, because I don't necessarily like to compete against others. I like to compete against myself, and I am pretty harsh on myself as well. So
All the signs of greatness, folks. You're hearing it live, and it's true. Like literally, your outlook on it is very much like Kobe Bryant's and Michael Jordan's. I'm hearing The Last Dance and hearing even Kobe's interviews where it's like, "Hey, Kobe, you just won the conference finals." He's just like the job isn't done until you hit the finals. Job isn't done, and even then, it's so what? It's one ring. Like anyone can
yeah,
win one ring, and so the
yes,
consistent and one of the things that you really said, which was ingrained even when I was in competing, and I didn't quite understand it so much later, and hearing you say it really speaks to me, was outworking yourself. Outworking someone else. I mean, they're at their own pace, their own strides, but when you outwork yourself, the numbers always come, and the greatness is sure to follow. And I think we're all a testament to the greatness of Jason Lambrick. So really, really appreciate your analysis on that, man.
oh man.
So for yeah,
Before
go
you
ahead.
go there, because I think one of the best definitions of greatness is humble. Someone with humble, is always humble. Even in the greatest moments, the greatest achievements, someone that can be humbled by it, really speaks
Gary.
out to me. So I just got to cut that out. Cut the rest, but just say humble to me is, in those great moments, is so important.
100%.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, no, you're good, man. And that's actually sort of ties into the my sort of breakdowns on it, because as you sort of hear what I'm saying, I'm going to be reflecting on what you're saying and might change my answer as I go through. But I'll talk about my initial take on greatness. There's a
Yeah.
quote I heard once about our deepest fears. For those who've seen the movie Coach Carter with Samuel Jackson, really great movie. He asks this one sort of troubled player, he's like, "What's your greatest fear?" And at the end of the movie, it's a long quote, but the portion that sticks out is, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are more powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." And this
Wow.
sort of segments into sort of how I viewed greatness. So Shakespeare's quote, "Some are born great." Um, this may be a lot of insecurities coming up, but I knew for a fact I was not born great. I was not the guy that was born with it. I grew up among a lot of intellects. My sisters, all of them older than me, they're all brilliant, man. My one sister graduated with a degree in science. The other one got her master's. The other one graduated in accounting. I can't do basic math, so that was me. And even my
Yeah.
immediate cousins. My one cousin graduated from McGill in engineering. The other one just did her master's in environmental sustainability in the UK. And my other
Oh,
cousin, same year, graduated from Harvard in biotech. So I've
wow.
been surrounded by people who were born great. And so when you have that metric of that, I'm like, yeah, I know where I sit within this space here. And not to sort of devalue myself, but it's like, where do I sit with it? Never will I ever come into a situation where it's like, oh, I am naturally going to be at this. That's not where my space is going to be. And in the
Yeah.
second place of some achieve greatness, this will sort of tie into the second portion of the quote that I shared. But I never felt like I was the kind of guy that could achieve greatness. I came from a wrestling background, and I remember it was my senior year, and I was like, this is the year I'm going to put my heart and soul into it. And it was like our season was during the winter, so I remember it'd be minus 23, and I'm running 5 a.m. Reason being is that if my opponent's sleeping, I'm winning. I had to get up before him, and like
Nice.
consistently, my dieting. For those of you who know me, I love to eat. And I was on no wheat, no dairy, no sugar for 6 months. So
Oh.
it was a very depressing season. And when you're in the winter, when you need body fat to keep you warm, I was shredding, so I was consistently
Yeah.
shivering.
Yeah.
And then the final tournament just didn't go my way, and so it ingrained in my heart. I was like, man, no matter how hard I work, it's never going to go my way, and that was something that really ingrained in my heart for the longest time. And lastly, some of greatness thrust upon them. I was often like, am I going to be that Luke Skywalker where I'm going to be on Tatooine and a droid's going to come out of nowhere? And turns out I am been destined for this moment. Is there someone coming my way? And I always figured this isn't something that's ever realistic to hope for, because this is almost like chance, fluke, a dying
Yep.
hope of those who want luck.
Yep.
But I actually did experience this quote November 17th, 2022, the day my greatness was handed to me, which was my daughter. And that was the
Oh
first
yeah.
time I was ever like, man, this has been something that's been given to me. So Shakespeare, 1 out of 3 ain't bad, man. 33%. Um, Now I want to migrate a bit towards what my English teacher Lee Becker said on the first day of grade 9, where he
Yeah.
said some people are going to be in the next 4 years. This is your time to make your life what it is. Some of you are going to be the guys that are doing things, making things happen, asking that girl to prom in a really big way, making that play in the football game. You guys are going to be the doers. There's other people that are going to be witnessing these, and they're just as important to be as well. You need people to witness these things. To your point, you know, what good is winning a basketball championship if no one's in the stands, right? Like you need people to attest to greatness. And those who wonder what happened, and this was his caution to people is like, listen, if you're skipping school, consistently wondering what was on the test, what happened, you're gonna let your time go by. And I always wanted to be the doer. I never wanted to be the person that missed. My current goal is to be the watcher. I need to learn to step away sometimes from the lampshade on my head and really observe and learn and the spaces there. And that's where Shakespeare's quote of some achieve greatness really ties into people that make things happen. Although I am not someone who may have the greatest results at the end of whatever it is I'm doing, I still find pride and joy in the fact that I had the courage to make something happen. I'll end with a final quote from Superman, which was, the only way for evil to prevail is for good people to stand by and do nothing. And so I always take that as a means of inaction is worse than taking a bad action. And so
Yeah.
that thing in my head of, be the person that tries to make things happen, and eventually the numbers of greatness will come. And that's sort of where I relate the two and how they're sort of together. And I'll hand it over to you for your thoughts on anything that was shared or even the second quote.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the second quote is great as well, and it's I do see how you correlate the two, and I love your deep dive. Um, I will go back to your point about seeing all of these family, with their accolades and achievements,
Hmm.
and caution you too that you know your greatness might not have that degree or that certificate, but you know there's many ways to achieve greatness, but a lot of people do gravitate to that, the schooling and the degrees and the diplomas, and then these crazy big jobs, as greatness too. But there are lots of small micro wins and greatness as well too. So
My
um,
my quote in university was C's get degrees, man.
I know,
But no, I
it's
appreciate that, man. I
true.
appreciate that.
And probably with AI and everything else going on, and who knows what degrees are really going to look like soon enough, right?
Amen.
But anyways, I digress. I really like, some people make things happen. I think that depending what it's in regards to, some may have fears, and they're like, they have it inside of them to want to make it happen, but they also have, fear of the outcomes, the what ifs, and I think some people do have those desires, but they just would rather back away and fear the rejection or the failure or whatever that comes along with it. And so, um, I do think that comes back to the born great. Like, maybe you're not born great, but you're working towards it, and you're trying to get there and make it happen. And maybe you're not there, but I think that you have to um, attack your fears, right? Like, again, back to the great ones in sports, like Michael Jordan, nobody talks about the failures. They only talk about the accolades, right? But he talks about the failures because he says, this is how I got to greatness, is because, I can't remember the exact numbers, but, how many throws he missed in the, dying seconds of the game that lost the game, and it was on him and on his back. And so I think we have to thrust ourselves in there to make things happen. As you said, maybe it doesn't go as planned or it's a big failure or whatever, but at least you put your hand up and you gave it a shot, and I guarantee you learn from it, which is great. Watching things happen, yeah, I do think that we do desire to see others, right, achieve greatness, right? It's all around us in our world. And you're spot on that I mean, if we got no viewers, then chances are we don't have that same feel. We don't have the roar of the crowd. We don't have the people standing up and cheering for you. But I do think that you can still find your inner achievements and your inner joys, as the individual. And the others wonder what happened. I like to think about this. I'm not sure if you've ever watched the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow. It's literally a moment in time where you make a decision where it's like, jump on the bus or don't jump on the bus, right? And um, I think a lot of people do wonder, like, if I went this route, or if I took this path, or if I did ask the girl out on the date, or if I did, take that last shot when the buzzer was about to go down instead of passing it, like, what could have been, what would have been. Great movie, but it talks about that. It reflects on the two, like, this was the path that she actually took, and her life is somewhat not great, a little bit miserable. And here's the path she could have taken that she is unaware of. And it's beautiful and it's amazing and it's just everything. And I think a lot of that X factor in the middle is fear based, right? Like fear of failure, fear of looking like an idiot, or whatever. And so I think that people should challenge themselves and not be a watcher, and not have uh, wonders of what would have been. Just go for it, right? And then you don't have to think about it.
I really like that big topic of fear because it really plays into both, right? Like if you were born great, you were born with the magic. Let's suppose you were born with the voice of an angel, but you're so afraid to even so much as give an
Yes.
audition. You look at the actress who went for Moana. She
Yeah.
sent her audition at the 11th hour only because her friends kind of nudged her, and she's like, "Man, I don't know if this is gonna be for me." And lo and behold, she went to performing on the Oscars, right? But like that fear
Yeah.
of actualizing that God-given talent, even achieving greatness or having it thrust upon you, you nailed it, right? Where if you're trying to achieve something or if something's been handed to you and you're so paralyzed by fear to act, it's not going to come to fruition. And even on the other side of the quote as well, where afraid to make things happen, even afraid to watch things happen in the hopes that someone might call you out on it. Right? You ever
Yeah.
have it in a class where teacher's asking a question, everyone's quiet, and she's looking around, and you're like, "Oh God, don't pick me, don't pick me."
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
it's that whole scenario, and
Yeah.
fear really playing into that latter portion of you wonder what happened because you were too afraid to act. I guess my throwback question to you would be is, do you feel like fear is the biggest contingent in people not making things happen or achieving their
Oh
internal
yeah.
greatness?
100%. Another person that I love to follow is Mel Robbins. I'm not sure if you've heard of her before. She has a book called The 5 Second Rule, And because our minds can get so, I mean, they get in the way with so many things, right? But one of the biggest things is just like give yourself 5 seconds, like do or don't, right? Like just you got 5 seconds. Don't hum and haw, and just okay. You're gonna do this, and it's just because you could take 5 hours, and you're still standing still, not doing anything, and the bus is gone. The opportunities left, right? It's over. And so I 100% agree. Fear um, is probably a huge driver to so many people on doing great things, right? Like, you know, person wants to open up their small business. The first thing that pops up? Fearful. I don't want to fail. I don't want to go bankrupt. I don't want to go in debt. You know, that's singer, right? Like, oh, I don't want to get on the stage. I mean, that's a lot of fear. Um, uh, my voice is going to crack. It's like, has your voice ever cracked in like 5 years? No. Like, shut up and get up on the stage, right? And
Mhm.
two, like, one of the biggest fears I think almost so many humans have is like stage fright, right? So talking about a singer, but maybe even talking about someone that has to present, right? They are like they're just like, no, I can't get up in front of this crowd. It's like, well, how are you ever going to get better at it, right? You will never get better at thinking about it, and you just got to get up there and do it. And so I go back to Mel Robbins again, just 5 second rule, just make it happen. I think you gave me an example one time where someone threw up an opportunity, you put your hand up like instantly, you're like, yeah, I got it, like you didn't even opportunity. I'm going to take it. Maybe I'm not super comfortable in it, but go for it. That's what we need more of in to conquer fear, because the more time you have, the bigger the fear can grow. The less time you have, the quicker you're up on the stage and you don't have another choice. Now you're it, and now you've embraced it, and now you're going to make it happen. So yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to combat fear, but I think preparation, if you've done everything that you possibly can to win that game, win that presentation, be a great singer because you practiced, you did all your prep, all that stuff, don't let that last sense of fear stop you from actually achieving it, because that will be the only thing that does stop you, because you've done all the work to make it happen.
Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
You got
Try
it.
saying that six
It's
times fast.
yeah,
I will,
never.
I will, I'll touch on one more point, and then I want to end off on a point that you made earlier, and I think this will really sum everything up. So the note on fear, I went skydiving, and actually my mom, at the age of, she's gonna watch this, so I won't expose her age, but age of significant age,
Smart man.
went skydiving the year that me and her went.
Love it.
And Will Smith did a great video on skydiving, and he said, the when the plan was made, him and his friends were super hyped, but he didn't sleep the night before at all. Like, oh my God, it's gonna happen. Afraid going towards the plane, afraid as the door opens, and at the point of like actual threat, he wasn't afraid looking down, and before he blinked, he was out of the plane. And so his analysis was, why was I afraid the night before? No danger has come my way, no harm's come my way. And at the point of maximum fear is on the other side of its maximum reward. If you just take that one and step, you're good to
Yeah.
go. So it's really indicative of people, just greatness is on the other side of fear. I want to end with this point that you made on self love, because self love, I feel like, ties everything together. When you love yourself, you don't mind if you're a watcher or a doer. When you love yourself, you have your own metric of greatness, and you're able to sort of achieve that. I wanted to get the concluding thoughts on self love, and what are your thoughts on it? Just the term in relation, how it relates to all this.
Mm. I think it's easy to say for anybody. Um, Hard to do. Hard to really truly believe it and live it. I myself can, as I shared, like I am really hard on myself, and I can be my own worst critic. And to be honest, like it's never good enough, right? And so those are things that I'm working on. Um, I think it really takes a lot of focus on mapping yourself out on, like, the small things, right? The little things, like, were you a kind person today? Were you helpful, to not only others but yourself? Were you, um, you know, were you beating yourself up because you didn't get 6 things done on your list of 24, but you got the other 18 done? Like, we look so quickly on what we missed or what we failed on, and I think we have to always map out the things that we constantly achieve, and they can be very, very simple. Like I said, kindness, I think this world could never ever have enough kindness, and when if someone is kind to you, that passes on, and it creates a spark within yourself, but it creates a spark, it passes that spark to other people. So I think a lot of mapping out, the small wins within yourself, not being too hard on yourself, looking at what is achieved, not what's not achieved. I think it really takes a lot of work, within, to get there. So that's my short. I could talk on for 5 hours about self love, but just be kind to yourself too, not just others.
100%, man. There's so many things that, like that you said, and I'd love to sort of reiterate them just because of how impactful
Sure.
they are. Because greatness and making things happen does start from the little things, right? Like
Mhm.
attending that one networking event, just showing up, doing these little things, and what opportunities they can present for themselves. Being hard on yourself, right? Every artist you can think of, whether you're a Da Vinci, a Picasso, you're creating Mount Rushmore, every artist has to step back, look, assess, and continuously paint, right? If they're looking at the
Yes.
canvas that hasn't been painted yet, they're not going to go anywhere. But if they're like, hey, I've done this, but this is where I can go, it's that step back is so critical to actualizing your greatness of like, hey, you know what, like this is what I've done, and to your point, how can I outwork myself to this place? So that self love being critical, and lastly, being kind to yourself. Have you heard of the Solomon Islands? Have you heard of that island? So there's this island where the people who were the First Nations of that tribe they would come together annually to get rid of crop, and they wouldn't chop it down, they wouldn't burn it, but they'd actually harness their aggression for the entire year and come and let it out and just verbally yell at these trees. They'd
I love it.
scream, yell, and get it all out of their system, and they just and then they'd walk away. Within days, the trees and crops would die. And it was
Wow.
like they didn't chop them, they didn't burn them, nothing physical transpired. It was
Wow.
verbiage. And so
Wow.
the impact of words that you say to yourself, right? If a word has the ability to end a life, and a mean word at that, imagine what a kind word to yourself can do in moments of it, right?
Beautiful.
So if, and there's also other stories where like they did experiments on somebody read to a plant or talked kindly to it and it grew stronger and better. So just
Wow.
hearing you talk about these things and the impacts it has on growth, on making things happen, on greatness, it's really great to hear. And well, great
Yeah.
to hear. Sorry, but it really
Yeah.
it really ties
Yeah.
in this entire conversation together. So I love your thoughts on it, man.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back to one of your call outs about the great artists and stuff like that, and painting and stepping back and looking at it. Um, Here's the thing about artists. I'm a painter myself, but anything in art can be done, redone, covered up, So even when you look at that failure and like, oh man, didn't get that nose right, um, paint over it, start from scratch. You create, you define when it's done, right? And so there is opportunity, to make sure that, you get to that greatness that you feel is it's finished and it's perfect, and there's always room for cover up, right? White paint does great, so not a worry there. I do love that analogy, or that story about the plants. I mean, think about our brains and how much, talking it does to itself on a regular basis, and think about how negative some of it can be too. Like, we can again be, very crude to ourselves and very harsh on ourselves, and critique ourselves and continually to minimize ourselves. Um, Sometimes it's actually better to get it out, right? Like when it's in and you're pull, keeping it down, releasing those negative words or negative thoughts can actually be really, really good for your soul. And then replace it with positive thoughts or positive words, just a reflection per day of like, I am kind, I am, I am good, I will do my best. If you give those things to yourself audibly as well versus just in your head, I think can also really drive that down. But I like that. I should start talking to my plants because some of them are dying. I certainly shouldn't sing to them because I'm closer to the Kermit the Frog voice, I think, than
you both, brother.
than some. But either way, I think talking to them or reading them a good story might help my plants a little bit. So I love that. I've never heard that before.
If I had to summarize your entire thoughts on what we've discussed today on greatness and making things happen, the Jason Lambert blueprint is stay kind, stay humble, and take a chance.
You have nailed that perfectly. I don't even know.
It's insightful, man. It really is.
I couldn't agree more. I think not to extend it or anything more, but I think in my life I've been blessed with great parents. I've been blessed with great family and friends, and I've always tried to do my best. I've always tried to support others the best way I can, and no matter what defined, in other people's eyes as greatness, I always tried to remain humble and not let it get the betterment of me, because I think there's a fine line where greatness becomes cockiness. So I always try to ground myself that I can achieve more or I can do more for others. And so I think being humble is along the way has really served me well for my own self-love, not about anybody else, but just for myself. I feel good when I can stay humble, and I will always remain that way.
100%, man. 100%.
Good stuff. Well, that was I think you summarized it really, really nicely. But before I wrap it up, though, like, what are your last thoughts? What's Hassan's thoughts?
My thoughts are your thoughts, man. But truth be told, these conversations are really cool to have because I think you nailed it from the get-go of it's easy for Shakespeare to have these quotes and for people to say, let's make things happen. Um, but ultimately, it comes down to your response to these quotes. In greatness, what do you define it as? And you can either be like me and say, I haven't achieved it, or you can take a minute and be kind to yourself and say, actually, I have been blessed with all three. And making things happen, remember who watched you, your loved ones. Like to your point, you had your parents, your siblings, your kids. They're the people who watched it happen, and you have to pay your dividends back to watch them when their moments come up, when they make things happen. And so when I say my thoughts are your thoughts, they truly are that, because everything you touched on has sort of shaped the way I view both of these topics. And when you have your own definition and scope of it, your greatness and your moment to make things happen are right around the corner. So appreciate your thoughts, man.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks, Hassan. Another great one. Really, really appreciate these quotes and you bringing them forward and unpacking them with us unscripted, live, as we
Live.
go. Yeah, another great one. So I appreciate it dearly, and I hope that you'll come back again and we can unpack something else.
Very soon. I appreciate your time, Jason.
Okay, take care, Hassan. Till next time.